Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table A Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. This is your host, Tim Burch. And, well, yeah, the calendar reads we're finally into November. Say quickly into November. But before we know it, we're going to flip over to 2023. And before we know it, we're going to be right around the corner to the FIG Working Week 2023, which obviously is FIG's one of their big deals. But this year, it's being hosted locally by NSPS in Orlando, May 28th through, actually, I keep saying June 1, but we're going to expand it to June 2, and we'll get into that. And my guest today is, everybody knows John Hohol. He's the co-conference coordinator of the working week, and been leading the FIG Foundation for many, many years, been a big supporter of NSPS and FIG relationships for many, many years. So, John, first, welcome. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Well, what we thought we would cover today, because, well, I guess collectively we've covered a lot of ground in the last several months, talking about this working week. We've talked about it at the NCSS meeting. We've talked about it in Warsaw at the FIG Congress. We've talked about it actually back in July at the Esri User Conference. We've been a little bit of everywhere. Now we've been to Intergeo, Intergeo, however, whichever side of the pond you're on for pronunciation, and then now an upcoming Trimble Dimensions. This is a big deal, and we've been trying to kind of shout from the rooftops what's going on. So I guess from your perspective, and you've been involved with this for a very, very long time, what is this conference, what is this working week going to mean, not to just to NSPS and FIG, but to the geospatial profession overall this next year?
Well, what's really amazing, and most people don't realize, is the broad definition of what FIG uses for the term surveyor. And their definition of a surveyor basically covers the entire geospatial profession. So, I mean, it covers surveyors, GIS, and the whole gambit in terms of what the geospatial profession means. I mean, two of the 10 technical commissions even cover real estate issues and construction and so on, engineering surveys, and like I say, the whole gambit. So, I mean, it's a really good opportunity to not only meet and talk about like issues, but just to learn about related and parallel issues that you come and encounter every day in your everyday work as well.
Absolutely. Well, and I guess to me, the beauty of this, I mean, having this working week in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, and we can talk about what they've just went through recently with Hurricane Ian. But the theme of the conference is protecting our world, conquering new frontiers, and the fact of what the geospatial / surveying profession, what we truly bring to the table as far as surveying and mapping and being able to monitor conditions, especially in some place like Orlando that has just suffered through this horrible hurricane. We're really going to be kind of at a ground zero of what needs to be done geospatially, topographic, hydrographic, the whole 9 yards. So it's really, I shouldn't say it, I hate it for the people that lost their lives and lost a lot of property down there, but this is really almost good timing of what we should be doing in a place like this.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely true, and of course, hurricanes aren't planned. They come, and you just have to deal with afterwards. And one of the important things to remember is throughout history, surveyors are always there first. They're basically the foundation, and everybody else follows.
Right, right. No, exactly. And I guess that's the part of it. I don't think I think you're right that the surveying profession in the United States isn't quite as broad as really the definition of surveying for a lot of the other countries and societies around the world. Like you said, it includes real estate evaluation, and a few other things. And that's really part of what we're looking at now is, yes, we're talking about topographic mapping, hydrographic mapping, cadasters, parcel mapping, but it's also about some of this valuation and all this stuff together. So that's another facet that I think is going to be very interesting for surveyors in the United States, at least North America, that's not normally used to it, to be able to be exposed to this type of environment with a little broader viewpoint of surveying.
Yeah, and the bottom line, regardless of where you're from, you may have a different language, different culture, but surveying is surveying. And the key is that surveyors need to manage the data. They
Right.
need to be in control. And I mean, this conference will show exactly how this all comes together through, like I say, through the 10 technical commissions of FIG, as well as the networking opportunities between the commissions, because many of them work together on many joint issues, and so it's really a great opportunity. And this may be, who knows when this will next happen. It's been 20 years since it was last held in the U.S. in 2002, so it doesn't happen very often.
Oh, exactly. Well, and I think even if we look at things that let's dive into the working week itself. If we look at things that are absolutely specific to the a North American surveyor, the first thing that pops out of my mind is the we're looking at the Wednesday, May 31st, big sessions with NGS, and basically I'll call it an official rolling out of the new dynamic datums and a lot of the things that NGS is putting on and how they're changing uh, uh, basically how we're going to be recording our positioning on our continent for the next several generations, and being able to roll that stuff out. Anything you look said? What do you see as behind all? What's going to be a benefit with all of that work from NGS?
Well, and of course, many of us have attended the previous NGS summits in
Yes.
Silver Spring, and I mean, it's been several years since they've last held one. And the key with this, I mean, session, an all-day session. I mean, first of all, Juliana Blackwell, the director of NGS, is going to be one of the keynote speakers that morning, and then the rest of the day will be dedicated to that track, so to speak. But the key is that all those elements involve more than the surveying profession. I mean, it involves all types of professions that need to deal with that type of technology and accuracy, and it's all directed and by surveyors. And so, I mean, that's really key. And when you have attended one of these previous sessions, I mean, you see all these different faces that have no direct relationship to surveying, but they still need that information, and it's critical to them. So, I mean, this is another really good example of bringing all these different elements together.
Absolutely. And I guess that's one thing I'm really looking forward to those sessions specifically, because it is, we kind of kid around with NGS a little bit about the 2022 datum, and obviously the pandemic has set some things back, and for them to do their work to, working on their gravity models and really putting stuff together. But this is going to be a great opportunity. Like you said, they haven't been able to have their survey summit in a couple of years due to the pandemic, to really kind of break this thing back open and to be able to do it in conjunction with this working week that we're going to be hosting, I think is it goes to show how important this working week is to the surveying community.
Well, and another thing is that it's going to be able to open it to the international surveying community too, to show what is happening in our part of the world. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is the footprint that this affects. I mean, this affects a quarter of the globe. I mean, it may not appear to be, but it actually does. And so, I mean, it's a very big portion of our world that isn't being affected by this.
Exactly. Well, and that's the to me is the interesting thing about this collection of people that get together for a working week and every 4 years for the Congress within FIG. It's because it's bringing all these disciplines together, all of these facets of surveying. For any information on what we're talking about, just throw it out there right now. It's go to fig.net and you can check out the FIG as itself as an organization, or go to the FIG 2023 page to see more about what we're talking about. But one thing that is important to touch on is, like you said earlier, these 10 commissions that are within FIG and how all of these different facets work together to really create a complete package of the geospatial world. And this is where the technical papers are brought to life, that there's a lot of these, the best of the best are coming here to be able to talk about these things. So what do you foresee, I guess, is some of the highlights of being able to have all of these well-respected geospatial experts from around the world? I mean, they're coming to our shores for a change.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, this is really the only opportunity that you see this. I mean, as we mentioned, the 10 technical commissions, basically 8 of the 10 deal specifically with surveying related issues as we define it.
Right.
I mean, Commission 1, you're the incoming chair, which is professional standards and practice. 2 is professional education. 3 is spatial information management. 4 is the hydrographic commission. 5 is position and measurement, which is basically what NGS is involved with. 6, engineering surveys. 7 is cadastre and land management. 8 is spatial planning and development. And then 9 and 10, 9 being valuation and management of real estate, and 10 construction economics and management, are the 2 that aren't quite directly related, but it's a really good opportunity not only to see all these experts, but then also you're going to see experts, from the UN, from the World Bank, and other international organizations and other affiliated international organizations like the, International Association of Geodesy, the International Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing, and other related organizations that come to this conference. And so you do not see that anywhere else.
Right. Well, and that's something I would want to touch on here. That you brought up a great point about some of the agencies and other partners from around the world that are going to be here for this. Let's take a little bit of a step back and let's talk about our domestic partners that are helping us put this thing on, that these like-minded organizations that are helping us both financially and logistically with putting some of this stuff on. Let's talk about some of those organizations that are going to be here to support this huge effort.
Well, I mean, just on the survey side, for example, I mean, obviously there's NSPS, we're hosting it. AAGS, American Association for Geodetic Surveying, is also supporting us. The Canadian Institute of Geomatics, which is the FIG member association for Canada, as well as Professional Surveyors Canada. And Professional Surveyors Canada is similar to NSPS in that they're the umbrella organization over the provincial associations. And then there's APAT, which is the Pan American Association of Surveying and Topographic Professionals, which is the umbrella organization over much of Latin America. And so we bring all these different related surveying associations together, along with organizations like the Appraisal Institute, the appraisers, the International Association of Assessing Officers, the International Right-of-Way Association, ASPRS as well. So I mean, it's many, many different organizations. ERISA,
Urissa, yep.
the GIS side, and we're getting support from international groups like the CLGE, the European equivalent of NSPS, that covers all the European national associations. So yes, it is a very big important thing. And then locally, we have the Florida Society of Mapping, Florida Surveying and Mapping Society, both the Orange County Surveyor and the City of Orlando Surveyor are very active in promoting this as well. So it's really, really great. And one really important thing for people to realize is that we're going to offer hundreds of presentations and papers, but we're also going to offer continuing education credits.
Right.
So that's going to also be a big benefit too. So it's going to really be a really great show, as Ed Sullivan might say.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, tell you what, let's take a step back, a little bit of a step back, and let's talk about the facility, because what you're describing obviously is going to take a lot of work, a lot of attendees, a lot of planning, a lot of things. But let's also talk about the facility that we're going to be at. Tell us a little bit about Bonnet Creek and and where this whole shindig is going to take place at.
Well, Bonnet Creek is kind of unique in that the fellow that owned the property was one of the few people that refused to sell to Disney when Disney was buying up all the property. So it's actually an island completely surrounded by Disney. And so there's many different resorts in that area. But the venue that we're at is the Signia by Hilton Orlando Bonnet Creek and the Waldorf Astoria Orlando. And between the two, there's about 1,600 rooms. We have a huge conference center in between with 47 meeting rooms. And so we'll not only have plenty of room for the presentations and so on, as well as a very large exhibit hall. In addition, they have something that's somewhat unique, and they call it Signature Island. It's about a 1/4 acre island that we're going to be able to use for demonstrations like UAVs, GNSS, GPS demonstrations outdoors. And that's typically what you would see at Intergeo. Unfortunately, this year they couldn't offer it in Essen because they did not have any facility to do it. So many of the vendors that like that are very happy to see that we're going to have that outdoors. And of course, not only the vendors, but of course, the users, will be able to take advantage of that too. So, it's really, and it's all self-contained, all under one roof. There are the two hotels with the conference center in between, so you don't have to go outside unless you want to. If you want to later on, there's plenty of opportunities. There's a water slide, there's a lazy river. You can cool off and whatever, but yeah, it's a really well put together venue.
All right. Well, having you explained the hotel and the conference center itself, I wanted you to explain a little bit of that, because I want to jump right into the next big part of this. And in fact, it's the exhibit hall that's going to be there that is going to really promote and really provide an opportunity for what we have not had a real national multi-vendor function in the United States for well over 10 years. That this is going to be the first time in a long time that it's going to be a substantial exhibit hall. We've got up to between 80 and 100 exhibit booths, and a place for a lot of exhibitors to come and really put on a show for what the next cutting edge of geospatial is all about.
Well, and we've also reached out to a lot of international vendors who you don't normally see in the US. I mean, there's lots of technology, and I mean, you know yourself, what you're exposed to when you go to Intergay or something that you just don't see here in the US. It eventually trickles down, but this is a good opportunity to see it firsthand immediately, and so it's as you say, it's going to be really great.
Yeah, it should be. And I guess that's what I'm looking forward to is having all of that stuff under roof, having all these technical papers, having, really being able to rub elbows again with a lot of our contemporaries from around the world, because like you said, it come down to it, it's a small world. The surveying is surveying, but being able to hear all these different perspectives is always great. However, we do have you've got a few other tricks up your sleeve. I mean, this is a destination type of a conference. uh, you've been very, very busy setting up a lot of technical tours, some offsite things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what the visitors can expect? Because when we'll get into registration here in just a few minutes, but what they're going to be expect to be able to also have opportunities to go do once they land there in Orlando and experience the whole Central Florida region.
Well, obviously there's a theme park, which everybody knows about, but in terms of technical tours, I mean, one of the really cool ones that I actually visited last week with Richard Allen, the Orlando City surveyor, was the NOAA Aviation Center in Lakeland, and that's where they have all their hurricane hunter planes. And I mean, it's amazing the technology that they use, and it's all what surveyors can relate to. I mean, they're lidar. I mean, they use drones now for dropping to monitor hurricanes, radar, remote sensing applications, photogrammetry. So it's a really cool, amazing facility, and they don't normally offer tours, and so we're going to be able to have a great opportunity to enjoy this. We're also
Nice.
going to have a tour with Southeastern Surveying Mapping Corporation. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. They're the largest surveying firm in Florida, and they offer the whole gambit in terms of all geospatial activities, the surveying, GIS, the hydrographic side, and so it's a really broad expanse, and they're going to roll out the red carpet there. We're also going to be able to go behind the scenes at the Kennedy Space Center
Nice.
and meet with the surveyors there to see how they're involved in terms of if in terms of what is done, and that's about one of the things that we're using to promote the meeting is a poster that NASA put out in 2008 or 2009. There were 8 professions that they put out to promote what they need when they land on Mars, and surveying was the second one that they put out. So obviously, that's conquering the future and conquering new frontiers, and so it's a good opportunity to see that as well. And there are several others too that we're finalizing, and so
Very good.
I think it'll give a really good opportunity. We're going to have one where we're going to have a hydrographic ship as well, and so it's going to give people some really good firsthand opportunities to pull all this together.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of the location, of the fact that it's going to be a working week. We're not, we've just come off of an FIG Congress. The elections are done with, so we're really getting back into the hardcore technical and really the sessions of some things. It's going to be a pretty good exhibit hall. It's in a good region. Unfortunately, that just went through a nasty spell of weather, but it's really kind of the first hand of what's going on. It kind of falls in line like we've talked about earlier with both FIG and CLGE and their overall term of blue surveying, and being able to relate all of this, how survey is in relationship to the oceans, to the watersheds, to the floodplains, to all of these things. Orlando's right in the middle of all of that, so that's going to be a great location for that to be. So no, it's a lot of great stuff to look forward to. One thing I would like to make a pitch out there to prospective vendors and even large firms that surveying multidiscipline firms that would think about attending. This would be a great opportunity to bring in your regional offices, your your staff to come in and be able to someplace to centrally meet as well. That we will have talk to us about some meeting space and getting together for some meeting rooms and such. You're going to see all of the big vendors there. You're going to see a lot of great topics. I think this is a great opportunity for any larger firm that wants a central location to try to meet. I tell you what, let's also then, we should talk about registration. We should talk about, the one thing I do want to stress to the listeners is, and it is because of this man, I'm sitting here looking across on the video screen, Mr. Hohol. We've locked in these hotels several years ago, and the cost on these hotels, which you'll see in the registration in a couple of weeks, are significantly less than what people are used to paying these days, and which is probably going to go up from here even with inflation and costs and everything that's going up. So anything you want to add to that, John, about, the bottom line is you scored a great deal for the conference goer here.
Well, and the other thing that doesn't really come to mind too is that most of these hotels have a resort fee. And as an example, for these hotels, it's $45 additional per night, which right. We have that waived. And so it's, it's some of these hidden charges that really add up very quickly. And so we really worked hard. We have, like you say, the special rates. We have special rates also for young surveyors and students, as well as, the government rates. So and the other thing too is that we've arranged so that we have these rates structured so that if you want to bring your family, and either before or after, those rates do extend beyond the dates of the conference itself. So that's a good opportunity just to come and enjoy and work at the conference, and then have some free time with the family and enjoy where you are. And most people don't realize, but Orlando right now is the 8th busiest airport in the world.
Yes.
And so, there's plenty of opportunity. In terms of nonstop flights, especially from the States to Orlando, and that, and plus the airfares are very, very attractive too. So it's a great combination.
It is. It very much certainly is. Well, bottom line is, while we can sit here and say this could be tailored to any and all surveyors, it really is probably more true than most conferences we talk about, and not to slight a state conference or any kind of seminar. This is really going to be such a spectacle that it will be a great opportunity. And like you said, it was 20 years since the last time something like this was in the United States, and who knows how long it'll be before it's back. So this might be an opportunity that you might really, really want to consider. Look at the calendar, see how it all falls out, and consider being there.
Well, and some things don't immediately come to mind. A good example is when we had the situation, back in the 2008, 2009 time, when surveyors were hurting for jobs, people that had been involved with FIG, or came to me. There are parts of the world that were hurting for surveyors. And so, a good example was in Australia, the mining industry was hurting for surveyors, and they had very attractive packages where about maybe 10, 12 American surveyors had a great job, where they would have been unemployed here otherwise. And so, I can't emphasize it enough. It's a really good opportunity just to meet new people and network and just connect with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Well, no, that's really good stuff, and you'll be seeing some more information about all of this. I guess this is kind of a little preview here as well. That in the coming weeks, if you are an NSPS member, you will be getting an email with the premiere issue of Surveyor Says, the NSPS bulletin. It's our take on what was previously known as the ACSM bulletin, but it's going to be digital. It's going to be coming out to all NSPS members. Besides basically laying out what the election and of our new officers for the following year, you're going to see all this information put into this issue, so you really have a little more to be able to read and to really grasp beyond us just sitting here talking about it, that you'll be able to see more about this information. And if you have any thoughts about it in the meantime, like I said, go to fig.net/FIG 2023, and you can find a lot more information about there. John, you've been beating a lot of shoe leather out there getting this stuff done. We can't thank you enough for really going to be making this a very, very good conference, a well thought out, well developed package here for all of this. I guess thank you. And what's driving you in all of this? This is really great stuff.
Well, it's my first FIG conference was in 1981. Okay, 41 years ago. And I mean, it really opened my eyes, and ever since they've been wide open. But beyond that, one thing we haven't really talked about quickly is, please go to the FIG 2023 website and consider submitting a paper.
Yes,
because
yes,
the papers are open right now. And the deadline for a regular paper for the abstract is January. So, I mean, if you have something you want to share, please do.
Good
I mean,
point.
it's a fantastic opportunity.
Good point. Yes, you're right. And you can make a pretty good splash on an international stage because, like I said, there's a lot of contemporaries from around the world that really pay attention to what gets brought up and presented at these conferences. That it is a great opportunity to let your knowledge be known out there, and to really help make a difference, help be part of that difference.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like I tell people, help people not have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if you've already done something, people can learn from it, and I mean, it's a good way just to share knowledge and share experiences. I mean, it's fantastic.
Well, and I guess that also made me think of one other thing that actually comes back to the FIG Foundation. That, and it'll probably be in the spring that there'll be an announcement about grants to help young surveyors get to
Actually, it'll come out November 15th.
November 15th, sooner than I was
Right.
anticipating. Well,
And
very good.
it will be publicized, and then I believe the closing is going to be in February.
February.
So,
Okay, very
right.
good. So if you're a young surveyor, be on the lookout for that. That there are grant applications you can put in for, and if you're chosen, that'll get you to Orlando next May and June for the FIG Working Week 2023. So, any parting closing shots, Mr. Hohol?
Well, you were going to mention about Friday.
Oh yes, you know what? I'm glad you didn't let me sneak away with that, and because Mr. John Warren would be very, very upset if we missed out on this. This is yes, Friday, June 2nd. This is going to be the first FIG NSPS golf outing. The golf course is directly adjacent to the hotel right there. It's Actually, I've been around the course. It is a wonderful little track, and it should be a lot of fun. The money's raised. Any U.S. money raised will go to the NSPS PAC. Any international money will go to the FIG Foundation for scholarships and such. Should be a really, really great time because there's, like I said, it's a great course, a lot of water. Yes, there's a few alligators out there, but just give them their space. So no, it should be like I said, this is this is the first one, isn't it, John? This hasn't been done before.
They've never ever had anything like this
Never
before.
done before. So, well, we're gonna break down that barrier as well by pulling something off as a first. So, no, it should be a good time. It's the day after the closing ceremony, so your sessions are out of the way. It doesn't conflict with anything. Let the kids float in the pool, go play a little golf, and raise some money for some good causes.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, if I've forgotten anything, just there's so much. Yeah, we could sit here and talk for a long time. There's just so much great stuff that's happening with here. Like I said, don't want to drag it out, but also don't want to miss anything. So, anything else you can think of?
No, well, and I guess as a last parting message, I mean, everything's going to be in English, okay? So,
Yes.
So no worries. So
yes. Well, and that's what, and I just explained this for a couple presentations I've been giving and talking about FIG, that we talk about a worldwide organization, but their standard language is English, and it literally has to be. That's just one of those things. Now, we should say that we are promoting this heavily within Latin and South America, and we are going to have some translating services through actually what used to be a personal service is now an app, right?
correct. Yeah. It's a virtual app that's instantaneous interpretation. So it will be Spanish interpretation for the plenary sessions and the keynotes, and then they will also have the opportunity to have a Spanish track for paper presentations as well.
And that's awesome. That'll really help draw in our Latin and South America counterparts that haven't typically really went to Africa, to Europe, to Asia, to a lot of our FIG conferences and working weeks and such. That we hope that really opens the door. And once again, it's technology, and that's really kind of the whole focus on where it's taking the geospatial profession. It's where it's taking the whole conference area as well. So this will be really cool to do. So, well, that'll wrap it up for this week's Surveyor Says. We appreciate John being on with us. This is episode 147. So also, what does that mean? That means 150 is right around the corner. So be on the lookout. We're going to have some special promotions for episode 150. We're going to have a little bit of trivia and a couple of things to interact with. We'll have some giveaways, so pay close attention. And if you like us out there, smash that follow button and let us know what you'd like to hear. So that'll wrap us up for this week. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.